Is Trey Lance the real deal for championship week? That and much, much more on today's episode of the Footballguys Mailbag Show. I am joined by my co-host Troy King at TKingMode on Twitter. I am Victoria. You can find me at FFB_Victoria. Now, Troy, I'm going to hit you with some stats before I have you jump into this question.
Okay.
This is on everybody's mind. This is a hot topic for this week. Right? Jimmy G, something going on with his thumb, his throwing thumb, rather, the right hand, right? So originally during this week, it was believed that Jimmy G would be out, or at least really doubtful. And now kind of thrown into a wrench today. There was a report by Jennifer Lee Chan, 49ers beat reporter. She said Shanahan says that Jimmy G does have a chance to play Sunday versus Houston. That came out around 2:00 today. So that's throwing a wrench into things. But let's get into, I don't want to get into Trey Lance's measurables, his college stats, his favorite color, right? I want to get into this matchup. This matchup is against Houston this week. So it's not as much of a smash play for quarterbacks as it was in the beginning of the year, but it's still pretty dang good. We might look at last week, though. I don't know, Troy, if this scares you at all. Justin Herbert played against him, albeit without Austin Eckler on the Chargers, without Mike Williams. He still finished the week as QB9 overall. He moved the ball still with ease, but he made some mistakes. He had 336 yards, only one touchdown, and a couple of interceptions, 2 interceptions. He only rushed the ball for 15 yards. But it was really the Chargers' defense that put them in a bind, right? They put him in a bad spot. Now, Trey Lance had 15 points in his only start this year. He had no touchdowns in that game. He also filled in, I think it was in week 4. I think he had around 20 points, but a lot of it was in garbage time. So we have a small sample size for Trey Lance. Now, let's talk about, do you trust Trey Lance this week, Troy? Who do you trust him over? And then just in case he doesn't play, just in case Jimmy G just comes out, guns blazing, and he's ready, what's our contingency plan?
Okay, so here's the thing. So in terms of, I think the hype, I like Trey Lance, right? But some people, I've seen some takes out there on Twitter. Some people are kind of irrational, right? Trying to play him over all the studs, right? Like people want to play Trey Lance over like the QBs that got you here. So that's where I'm like, yo, pause. I think that he's going to be a QB1. I think more so a low-end QB1 if we're being realistic. Like you said, Houston hasn't been super easy, in terms of quarterbacks. Like they haven't been a pushover, right? We just think that Houston just sucks or they're a horrible team, and they haven't been that much of a pushover. And the thing about Trey Lance, also in the game that you talked about, he only threw for 52%. So he looked like a rookie when he had the start, right? So I think the problem is that, well, here's the thing. We don't need to rely on him as a passer. It's going to be his rushing, because when that last game where he started, he rushed 16 times for 89 yards. That's the only reason we're talking about him. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason we're talking about him for his rushing. And even against Houston, I don't expect him to be a great passer. I think he's going to do enough, and he has a big arm. So I think he's going to do enough in order to make big plays, but we're relying on his rushing. So I think his rushing floor is going to allow him to be a QB1, but I wouldn't play him over guys like Josh Allen or anyone crazy like that, right? Like I'm going to temper my expectations. I think he's a QB1. He's better than, I would play him over probably like a Ryan Tannehill type of quarterback. I'd probably play Trey Lance over him, but I'm not playing him over like Kyler Murray, Lamar, people like that. Nah, like I'm going to stick with those studs.
I love that. Okay, let's look at a couple other some of the performances recently against Houston. They've been pretty good against QBs since their bye. They had Tannehill 13 points, Zach Wilson 11, Carson Wentz 11, Russell Wilson 21, Trevor Lawrence 10, Justin Herbert 19, right? So they haven't had the highest of competition either, which is worth noting. But I love what you're saying. We're here because he has a high rushing floor. And I had a little conversation on Twitter earlier yesterday, I think it was. He's got the weapons around him. He's got his guys, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk. He's got hopefully Elijah Mitchell coming back to help him out, right? I just don't know. I'm not also playing him against guys like, playing him over guys that got you here. Like you said, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. Taysom Hill is where I start to say, I'll think about it. I think that's where I think I would play Lance over Taysom. Taysom Hill has Carolina this week. I think I'd play him over Tua, over Justin Fields, guys like that. Carson Wentz, if he's back, even if he's back, I'd still go Lance. But it's really tough. It's really tough. I think that's where I'm drawing the line. So we shall see what he will do. The conversation on Twitter, though, yesterday that I had was like, picture he is Jalen Hurts, probably with better weapons.
Well, look at Taysom Hill. He's pretty much like Taysom Hill with better weapons, right? Like
exactly.
that's what I think of, right? That's the only reason we're talking about it, because it's rushing, and we expect him to rush a lot in this game.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning into our last episode for the season of the Footballguys Mailbag Show. A reminder for when we come back after this off season, we'll be back. What do you think, Trey?
Close to the draft. We're gonna be close to the draft is when you're gonna see us again, because I know everybody may have a bunch of questions. We're probably gonna be talking a little dynasty and some draft questions. So check us out for around that time.
Absolutely. We're going to have Dave back with us, and we'll make sure we answer your questions live. But just look out for the announcement. We're going to take a little hiatus, but we'll be back. I cannot wait for the draft to start. But make sure that you get to our YouTube page, youtube.com/footballguys, to watch this show, the Audible, DFS Power Grid, every other awesome show that Footballguys has to offer. We're still going to be churning out content during this off season. Troy, do you want to tell our viewers about FanUp?
Of course, I want to tell them about FanUp. Ladies and gentlemen, if you love fantasy football, then listen up. You have to join this NFL season's hottest and easiest daily contest. You can flex on the competition in FanUp's daily Flex Ball contest to win cash and the hottest brand prizes. It combines the best of redraft and best ball formats. There's no salary cap, drafts, or waivers. FanUp allows you to pick a new team daily and stack your roster however you like. You can take on your friends every week, so sign up right now. Enter before Thursday Night Football, Sunday games, and Monday Night Football each week to win FanUp bonus prizes from Fanatics. Download the FanUp app now in Apple app stores, or go to fanup.app. Just be fans.
Fanup.app. Just be fans. It's the last time we're going to flex on the competition. I'm getting sad now. But let's get into
it's going to be all right.
Let's get into the questions here. We'll start with at Bills for Life 23. Yes, I agree. Bills for Life 23. He asks, if Lamar plays, do I play him over Trey Lance? And now we just hit on this a little bit. Troy, you said you wouldn't, right?
No, yeah, I'm playing Lamar over Trey Lance. And I get the question, right? It's because all the hype that's surrounding Trey Lance on Twitter, it's a fair question, right? There's a lot of analysts who probably going to put Trey Lance in number one QB on the week, right? Just because of their excitement or if their pent-up rookie energy, because they've been waiting to see him. I know Lamar's been a little bit banged up, right? But if Lamar is active, I believe it's because he's good enough to do what he needs to do in terms of rushing, right? I don't believe that they're going to activate Lamar if he's just going to be a pocket passer, right? You're going to activate Lamar because you're expecting him to be at least somewhat healthy enough to do everything he needs to do. So if Lamar is active, I am definitely playing him over Trey Lance.
Ooh. Even though he's got the bum ankle, potentially limiting
I did see a video today of Lamar. He was like doing some weird skipping thing or jogging. He didn't look great today. So, and also I'm looking at practice reports, right? It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm going to see how he's progressing, right? It's expected. So, like, if he misses any practices, I don't believe he should be practicing for the rest of the week. So, definitely make sure you check out those practice reports. But in a nutshell, I'm playing Lamar Jackson over Trey Lance.
See, and I might lean the other way, depending, like you said, Troy, about these practice reports. But the Rams are giving up the 9th fewest fantasy points to the quarterback position since week 9. I kind of err on the side of caution with Lamar. He's not played in the last couple of weeks. Will he be himself, as you already hit on? Will he be able to rush? I mean, that's his floor. That's what we're talking about with Trey Lance having a rushing floor. So I might take the healthier guy with the better matchup. I'm looking at matchups for my championship. So
but I'm also look. I get it. I understand. And then if Lamar wasn't hurt, I don't think this would be even a competition.
no.
I understand. I understand the Rams are tough, but again, Lamar Jackson. I don't care who the competition is. We've seen Lamar do amazing things in his career in this season, and also he's improved as a passer, right? He's improved as a passer too. So again, I'm going into the mentality of they're going to only activate him if they believe that he can do mostly everything they need Lamar to do in terms of rushing and all that. So that's the way that I'm seeing it.
I like it. Our close friend of the show, Abe at DFS_docket, he asks, are you worried to play anyone from Dallas this week? Obviously, everyone had a great week 16, but struggled mightily leading up to that game. Yes, they did. Troy, do you have any worries?
Well, I'll say Dalton Schultz has been balling, right? Even the week before. So he's over the past 2 weeks, he's actually averaged a 22% target share. And he scored back-to-back weeks. And I believe he's tied in 3 in points per game over the last 2 weeks. And over, I think, the past 4 games, he actually has 6 red zone targets. So I'm just going to make mention about Dalton Schultz. So Dalton Schultz, he's been doing this thing. The others, yeah, I agree. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, they've been, but I think a lot of that had to do with, it's not their fault, it's Dak's fault. Dak's the one, for some reason, he hasn't even looked like Dak all that much this season. Last week, okay, like that's the Dak we expected all season. So he was the reason the other people weren't performing. So I believe that Dak needed a game like last week. Is he going to look exactly like he did last week? I don't know, but hopefully he doesn't look like he did for all those other games, right? So at least we can have some middle ground, Dak. If you could just be like in the middle of that, then every play is fine. But the problem is, like in the championship, I'm not sitting any of them. I'm not sitting CD. I'm not sitting Amari Cooper, and I'm not sitting Gallup or Schultz. So in my opinion, you still gonna play him, right? Off of that high, like, okay, let's get some momentum, right? Because God forbid you sit them and they go off on your bench, you're going to feel very foolish. So I'm playing them.
That was me feeling foolish last week because this entire season I can't get it right. Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott, and I don't want to drop. I didn't want to drop either one. I shouldn't have had both of them, right, to begin with. I don't want to drop either one of them because they're top QBs. I'm not trying to give my competition a nice quarterback on the waiver wire, but
I feel you.
The only worry, one of the biggest worries I would have would be Zeke, I think, because he was propped up by 2 touchdowns last week. I think he ended up with 17 or 18 total fantasy points for PPR, but 2 touchdowns. So 12 of those points in the 6-point touchdown league. That's a lot of his points coming from touchdowns, and he's kind of just not looked like himself for the last couple of weeks. Tony Pollard's back, so his ceiling is capped. I think I would be worried Arizona is giving up the 13th fewest points to running backs, the 5th most points to wide receivers. So, Troy, I completely agree with you on the wide receivers. I'm not sitting any of them. I still think Gallup is a great flex. And we saw last week Amari Cooper come back to life after, the squeaky wheel narrative. He was complaining in interviews. He wants more targets. He wants more 3rd down targets, red zone, etc. Well, he got his. He came back to life last week. So I'm with you, Troy. I'm plugging the wide receivers back in. I'm plugging Dak back in, I think. We'll see. But yeah, I'm a little worried about Zeke. If you have another option, if you grabbed a Rojo off the waiver wire last week, I'm fine playing Rojo, smashing the Jets on the ground this week over Zeke. A guy like that.
I'll let the fans know this is top secret. Well, not top secret, but this is back behind the scenes. Nobody has been frustrated by Dak more than Victoria here. Victoria has been so frustrated with Dak this season. I just want to let y'all know it's been very funny behind the scenes. in our group chat talking about it. So just so y'all know.
Funny for you guys watching me make the wrong decision week in and week out. Jalen Hurts scores 30. I played Dak, he scores 3, etc. every other week. So had to sweat out this last matchup, but I ended up making it to the championship in that one. So we will move on. We've got another question from Abe. What price are you willing to pay for your boy Zach Wilson in Dynasty Superflex? I mean, I think he's your boy, Abe. But what price are we willing to pay for Zach Wilson in Superflex, I guess, after this season?
Okay, so I mean, we know how valuable QBs are, and obviously he's a rookie QB, second overall pick. So he's going to be like you're going to need a first plus, right? So it's going to be like a first round pick, and on top of that, right? So I think it depends on who you're trying to trade with, but that's gonna be his price. Like normally, I would say for QBs, you don't give up a QB without receiving a QB, right? Unless you're just getting some crazy haul. So if it's gonna be like a first and like maybe some veteran quarterback, some old bummy quarterback, I can't think of one right now. But if it's like a first and
Derek
Matt
Carr?
Ryan, maybe like a first and Matt Ryan. I think that might be something that some like a fancy manager would do, but it would have to be something like that. I think that's probably his price, right? But like, because a single first is not going to do it, and then like a first and like a wide receiver isn't going to do it. Especially again, a young quarterback in Superflex is like gold. So I think it's going to have to be something like that. I believe that's what his price is going to be, depending on who the manager is.
I agree with that. And it's all about knowing your league mates too. If you've got somebody that's just like tired of Wilson, or they watched him play this year and they're like, he's not it. Maybe they're willing to give him up for a cheaper price, or they don't need a QB like you said, Troy, maybe 2 firsts or a first in a couple of seconds. You got to know your league mates too. I don't think if you're going to Abe trying to get Zach Wilson from Abe in your league, I don't think he's going to be giving him up there. So you got to
exactly. It all depends. But I think there's a lot of people like this is the time to buy Zach Wilson, right? Because if anyone disagrees with what I'm saying, he would have been horrible. He had not been great, right? So he's been a little bit better over the past few games, but in the beginning when he was starting, that's really when you should have bought him, right? You should have been feeling because he looked really bad. So you could have gotten him for probably very cheap, but I feel like that the first with Matt Ryan is probably the cheapest you're gonna get him. Some people are gonna want a little bit more, which is understandable. But based off his performance, I think there are gonna be some fancy managers that be willing to trade him because they probably think, hey, he sucks, and they're gonna eventually move on. So I think you might be able to take advantage of people just thinking about the Jets and thinking about how he's just bad. Well, he didn't have a great season this year.
Not many people are thinking about the Jets. I'll just throw that out there. And Zach Wilson wishes he could play the Jags every week. But it was fun to see him do his thing out there. But let's move on to our next question from good friend of the show, Jeremy. Who should the Denver Broncos get for their QB for next year? And now, Troy, I already know what you might start with. There's a lot of... We've already said this on the show a couple of times. Every single dynasty trade or anything is going to hinge next year on where is Aaron Rodgers going? What if this receiver might have Aaron Rodgers at the helm next year? Well, and that's going to be used for this like trade bait and trade discussion. So I'm going to throw Rodgers out there, but what are your thoughts, Trey?
I mean, he's the clear choice in this in terms of like I think he's the best candidate. I think the landing spot that makes the most sense for him, right? Because you have all those receivers, you have Javonte Williams, you have a solid offensive line, you have a good defense. So I feel like that's like one of the very few places that Aaron Rodgers can just go and you don't really have to do much, right? You locked up your receivers, you have a solid tight end and Noah Fant. Like again, you have Hamler, you have Hamler, you have Courtland Sutton, you got Jerry Jeudy, you just signed Tim Patrick. Like you got a wide receiver core. You just need a quarterback to utilize them. And obviously Aaron Rodgers, that he's going to be able to make that happen. And in terms of anyone else, so I know everyone's talking about the 2023 class. I feel like everyone is like, oh my gosh, like that's the greatest class of all time. That's the way some people are acting, right? So the 2022 class in terms of quarterbacks, from what I gathered in terms of people who follow Devi, and I'm not a Devi guy, but the people who I trust who follow Devi are telling me this quarterback class ain't that great. So I don't know if like they're gonna draft somebody again. I don't trust John Elway in terms of quarterback evaluation, so that makes me a little nervous. But I'll say maybe a veteran, and I think you gotta get someone like I don't know who else like what Tyler Huntley. Like Tyler Huntley looked good. I don't think he's gonna be a game changer. I think you're still looking either you're gonna wait to draft a young QB or you're gonna get someone like Rodgers. Otherwise, again, like you're not gonna bring Teddy Bridgewater back. Drew
Yeah.
Lock ain't it. So you're gonna have to get someone like again, Huntley in his limited snaps, he looked electric. So maybe he's someone that could bring some juice to that offense. If you don't draft a quarterback or you don't get someone like Aaron Rodgers. That's just throwing a random name out there. What do you think?
They need to make moves. Whatever they do, it has to be an improvement because that team, you already named everything there that they have. They have such a cohesive unit on all sides of the ball. The only thing they are missing is a competent quarterback. It's kind of how we maybe discussed Washington last year. Of course, we thought their defense was a lot better going into this season, but kind of like that same situation, and it stinks to see, especially for fantasy, because I saw a tweet today that showed the fantasy finishes over since the Broncos bye. It showed the fantasy finishes for their wide receivers, and they were putrid. Not one was great, and that makes me really sad. And they really need to address this. Rodgers would just be a perfect fit, and it makes the most sense, like you already said, Trey. But we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. If not, they got to draft somebody. They already, in my opinion, made it a little bit of a mistake not taking someone in this past year's draft.
I agree.
But they tried, it's over now. So this is a great question coming up here from Sam. Can we trust DeAndre Swift this week in our championship matchups if he suits up, right? Because we're not sure if he's going to play.
So this is another situation. I'm gonna say in a blanket response, if he's active, I'm playing him. So I'll say that. But it's always important. I always encourage people follow the practice reports. Follow what people are saying in terms of his progression. Is he limited? Does he ever get a full practice? And so if he doesn't get a full practice and Thursday or Friday, I'm gonna be much more hesitant. But the problem is like we've seen how good he is when he's on the field. So if he's active and he's been gone all this time, right? So the way I see it is that if they're going to activate him, they're planning on using him, right? So that's the way that I see it. And again, in the championship, you got to take risk. You can, if you want to win the championship, people don't win championships playing it safe all season, right? So someone like DeAndre Swift, again, you've probably been trying to mix and match. And if you've gotten this far, right, without DeAndre Swift and you have him and you're able to like flex him, you probably have a solid, if you're in the championship, you have a solid roster, right? So if you have a spot or a flex spot or whatever where you can plug him in, I think he's worth it because especially in the PPR leagues, we've seen how many targets he gets when he's on that field. And majority of the time, the Lions game script, they're playing from behind. Like I know they've had some weird games where they've actually won and it's close, but for a lot of the season, they've been playing from behind. And we know that the Lions love to throw the ball because they have to throw the ball because there's a lot of times where they have to catch up. That's why DeAndre Swift should be very involved. So this is the reasons why I'm going to trust him.
Whew. So it would be really nice if we could hear something about the workload he might be getting. If we're waiting Saturday night, waiting on the Shefty late night tweets to say, he's a game time decision or he's only going to be on a limited snap count. Hopefully we get some news like that. Otherwise, I'm going to have a hard time slotting him back in. I'm just thinking, I agree with your take, Troy, on like why would they bring him back if they're not going to use him? But ending that sentence with why would they bring him back? Their season is over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the risk of injury or re-injury to everything, all the ailments he's already dealt with all season. He's their future. He's the best running back on the roster, possibly the best pass catcher on the roster right now. Although Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, has looked incredible over the last month. That's actually a good feed off of this. Are you still playing Amon-Ra if Swift is back?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, make sure you're dropping those questions in the comments here. We'll get to those shortly. We got a couple more from our tweets here. We're gonna start with Craig. Moving on to these start sits. Craig's asking Fant or Goddard at tight end this week. It's PPR, but no tight end premium. He could also get guys like Komet, Foster Moreau, or Uzama off of waivers. Whew.
Okay, so this was tough, right? So I was looking into the numbers because last week both of them did not have a good week, Fant or Goddard. But so I feel like this season, Fant's only had one like really good game where he actually like had like over like 20 points or so. Goddard before last week, he actually had two like really good
Massive
games where he was like heavily targeted. I think, and so yeah, he had like 105, had 135 yards last week and 100, and then he had a bye, and then he had 105 yards the week before that. So for me, out of these two, Goddard has the most upside. So I'm gonna be taking Goddard. I do like Foster Moreau. I think Foster Moreau, with obviously we haven't seen Waller doing this thing, and I feel like Foster Moreau is just safe. So I think I'm probably like him and Fan are kind of like equal to me, but I think in terms of upside, give me Goddard.
Completely agree. And you already said, look what Dalton Schultz did to Washington last week. I mean, that was 8 for 82 and a tutty. I could see Goddard kind of having a bounce back game this week. Jalen Hurts performed well against Washington a couple weeks ago when they faced them. So I'm sticking with Goddard. I'm not taking a guy like that off of waivers. Got another tight end question here from our friend Kev, FF Grinder, asks PPR, Hunter Henry, or try to get Foster Moreau. Waller, man. Sheesh. What? Sheesh is right. Waller's now on the COVID list, so Moreau's going to get the start again, it seems. But...
And Darren Waller was actually put on IR today, if I saw correctly. Yeah, he's put on IR.
Oh, goodness.
So, yeah. I think, so this was tough. So, for the most part, for most of the season with Hunter Henry, the reason why we've liked him, he's been very effective. He's been heavily targeted in the red zone. So that's the reason why we've liked Hunter Henry. So he's relied a lot on touchdowns. But he did have before this last game where he was just awful. He had a really big game. He had like I think over 100 yards or so. Foster Moreau, he's safer, I would say. So it comes down to the competition, right? So Foster Moreau, he gets Indy, and Hunter Henry, he gets Jacksonville. Based off that, give me Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I like that. I'm looking up on our footballguys.com the tools, fantasy points allowed. Surprisingly, Jacksonville allowing the third least amount of points to the tight end position since week 8. Wow. That's probably because all the other position skill players are going off and the tight end is just not needed. I still think I'm sticking with Hunter Henry here for that touchdown upside. Foster Moreau, he has already had multiple weeks without Waller and played in Waller's absence, and he's been okay. And Derek Carr is a little bit banged up. I'm just not willing to ride with Foster Moreau for my championship game. I'd rather take a shot on that touchdown upside with Hunter Henry. We got another quarterback question. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or your boy Tua. These are the quarterbacks I drafted, and we're here. Yes, you're at a fork in the road, my friend. Troy, you gonna pick this homer pick here? Or?
Nah, I'm gonna pick Lance. Okay. I'll pick Trey Lance because I feel like with Tua, he's had a very good ever since he came back from injury. I think Tua's done really well against Tennessee. I think that's probably going to be it's going to be a test for the Dolphins. I feel they've gotten, obviously the Saints defense last week was tough, and I think Tua he was all right. He's a really bad pick, but he was okay, right? But I think Trey Lance provides the most upside in this case, and it's all based off what we've been talking about, right? It's his rushing. I think that's what it comes down to. So based off of that, me personally, I would order it Lance, Tua, and then Fields last.
I agree with you. I'm taking Lance for the ceiling, as you already said. If Lance doesn't play,
If Lance
goodness.
doesn't play, then it's Tua for me. I'm going into it as if Lance is playing. I just yeah.
Goodness gracious, that's tough if he doesn't play. Ooh, Tua is safe, but he's not gonna give you that boom game, especially
But
Tennessee.
Fields
Like,
doesn't. But Fields doesn't. Okay, but the problem is like Fields, like he's giving us like. I feel like we expect more boom games or more rushing, and I feel like we've seen it like I haven't seen it that much, right? So it's like he's supposed to be having his rushing floor, and like he's been okay sometimes, but he
yeah,
can also be really bad. We've seen him be really bad too. So that and in the championship, I don't want any risk of really bad. So
that's true. That's a good point. They're so close. They're so close. I think you probably get a similar output from Fields and Tua if Lance isn't playing. What do we got next? Okay, we've got a question about running backs. Sit two of these 5 running backs: Austin Eckler versus Denver, Aaron Jones versus Minnesota, Sony Michel versus Baltimore, Darrell Williams gets Cincinnati, and then either Elijah Mitchell or Jeff Wilson versus Houston. So obviously Eckler's a must start, and then you can these next few are tough because
no, Sony Michelle, I think, has gone into the must start range. I think Eckler's a
yes.
must start. Sony Michelle's workload, he's a must start. The
Mm-hmm.
other ones get a little because I feel like Aaron Jones at this point, I don't think
What
he's a
is
must
going
start.
on? I know. I
He's not
can't
he's
believe it.
like if you just looked at his stats and you didn't see the name, you would not consider him a must start. Like he hasn't had for the past couple weeks like huge games that we're expecting of Aaron Jones. So I feel like Darrell Williams, I feel like we've seen when he's been starting, we saw remember how many targets he was getting? He was getting like 9 targets a
Exactly.
game or so, like when he had that. So I think I would sit maybe Aaron Jones and like the Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson combo. And the reason for the Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson combo is because it's usually the Debo show. I think it's either maybe the Debo show or it could be the George Kittle show. So I think it might be. I think George Kittle might be banged up. I think he should be playing. I don't say any reports where he shouldn't play. If I'm remembering correctly, but I think me personally, I think it would be. It's. I hate saying sitting Aaron Jones, but out of these options, right now in the championship, you can't think about names. You think about matchup. Who's gonna get the opportunity? Who's gonna get the targets? What have you done for me lately? What
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones has done for me lately compared to Eckler and Sony and Darrell Williams when he started, he hasn't been doing the same things that they have or getting the same opportunities, whatever. So it's hard to say, but out of these options, I would probably say Aaron Jones and the Eli Mitchell, Jeff Wilson combo.
This is tough. So I looked into the recent fantasy points allowed for these teams. Sony Michel, Baltimore's giving up the 5th fewest points per game. Darrell Williams, the Bengals, giving up the 6th fewest points per game. Houston is just bleeding points. You saw Justin Jackson step in for Eckler last week, and he balled out. He had 34 PPR fantasy points. He won people their games last week. And then for Aaron Jones, both his usage, snap count, all of that stuff is going down. He's been splitting almost evenly with AJ Dillon for the last couple of weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks now. And Minnesota is kind of the middle of the pack when it comes to giving up running back points. So I think I might, if I'm paying attention to practice reports, I might play Elijah Mitchell in this matchup if he's back, just because we saw Justin Jackson, a guy who hasn't scored a touchdown all year. He had 2 last week, and he came in and did his thing. So I think I would be probably sitting Jones for me. I'm with you, Troy. That's so tough to say.
I hate saying it, and sorry to interrupt, but like
No, you're fine.
and I want to clarify the reason. Like, obviously, Houston's a really good matchup, right? But it's because if Elijah Mitchell is active, and that's
Yeah,
the problem is I don't know what the split's gonna be. Like, I have no idea. Like, that
yeah.
would just be messy. I don't know who's gonna be. And then again, you can have Debo in the mix, and he can steal touchdowns. So that's another thing you have to factor in. Like, yeah, it's a great matchup, but who's gonna be the running back? If it's just like Jeff Wilson, then if it's just Jeff Wilson, then maybe I would probably sit, I guess, Daryl and
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, if that's the case. But it's going into it based off of this question, like the split of Eli Mitchell and Jeff Wilson. That's the reason why I'm like, I don't like to play that game. So that's why I'm going to be sitting them and Aaron Jones.
That's okay. I know that's a tough one. I think pay attention to these practice reports. Look at the matchups. I'm with you, Trey. If we get better word on Elijah Mitchell, I'm putting him in there. Ooh, these are a couple more questions here, and we'll get to the comments ASAP. We've got one from Tommy Blair. Says, what will change in your dynasty startup strategy for 2022 over the previous years we've been playing? This is a good question.
I love this question. When I saw it come through, it really made me think. So shout out, Tommy Blair. Like, we have really good questions. All of them are good questions, but this one actually made me think. So I think one thing that I used to not do that I'm going to do now is that I'm not going to be scared to get my guys, because I think so many times we think about value, right? Like, oh, where we should get it. 'Cause there have been so many times, and again, like, you can't always avoid getting sniped, but there's been so many times where, like, I try to play the waiting game, right? So I'm like, okay, like, I don't have to take him here. I can wait a little bit longer. And then they get snatched up, and then I have regret, like, man, I should have just picked him. I should have gotten this guy at this spot, right? Because at the end of the day, after the startup, it doesn't matter if you really think of it, right? Like, you're just playing these guys every single week, and again, it doesn't matter where I drafted them in this dynasty startup. It depends on how do I value them for X amount of years? Can they contribute to me early? So, like, for example, like a Jalen Waddle, right? You've seen him, like, I've seen some people do dynasty startups where he's in super flex, so just use super flex as an example. He'd be going in like the third or fourth. And I think his value is going to creep up. Maybe I have to take him in the late second if I want him, So, like, that's an example, because if you don't take that guy and then your opponent again takes him a couple picks after, it hurts. And then it's like, okay, you have to pivot and you think about it, and then you wish you had him on your team. And another thing that's important is that all these players, the cheapest that they're going to be for the most part is in this startup draft. Because after, especially like quarterbacks, they're the cheapest in startup draft. So that's one thing I can give to everybody, because after, you always have to pay such a premium. Like, wherever you can get like Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, whatever, obviously going to be the first round, but that's the cheapest you'll ever get them. Because after that, you're going to have to give up your firstborn if you want any of them, the really, really good players. So yeah, that's what I would do. Just don't be scared to reach for your people.
I love that. I love that advice so much. I did that for one of my startups last year. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go out guns blazing. I took Austin Eckler and Antonio Gibson. One of those worked out. The other was, a little bit banged up this year and didn't work. But in these next couple of years, their value is going to be fun. Taking good quarterbacks early was something I had written down and thought of, because like you said, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, this player might not go. They might make it back to me. Just take the guys you want when you have the chance. I remember doing this startup draft before the season started, before New Orleans had chosen their starting quarterback. And I'm glaring down Jameis Winston in the startup, and I'm like, oh, is it too early to take him? Should I wait a couple rounds? Sniped. I waited too long, and then my gut instinct was right. They named him the starter, etc. Trust your gut. Take your guys where you want to take them, as Troy already mentioned. And loading up on wide receivers is never a bad idea. There's been look at this season with the injuries to running backs. Sometimes there's going to be some guys that you can plug and play off of your waiver wire if you're not in a crazy, 30-player deep bench or whatnot. So I like that too. Got a couple more here. One from Fantasy Exchange asks, which industry guys or gals are in some big final matchups this week that you're watching or involved in? I love this. We've got a friend in Scott Fishbowl that made the finals.
Yo, Mike. Shout out Mike. Daddy's home. He's in the finals of the Scott Fishbowl. So proud of him. So shout out to Mike. And Also, so I'm actually in a league. It's called the Injury Prone Invitational, right? So in that league, you have people like JJ Zacharyson, Grant Barfield, Ian Hardest, uh, Ray GQ. There's a bunch of people. Pat Fitzmaurice,
Woo!
Edwin. So yeah, so in the finals of that, so Ian Hardest just beat me in the semis. So it's gonna be
Ah,
him and Graham Barfield. They're gonna go at it, in the injury prone invitational. So that's gonna be a heck of a matchup. So I'm very curious who's gonna come out on top there. Both of their rosters are loaded, so I would say that's probably the one I'm thinking about.
I love that. I squeaked by in our international dynasty startup that Justin Boone put together. I'm in the championship. I was down. I don't know.
Hey,
We were talking,
congrats.
Troy. I was down what, like 70, 80 points, and then all of a sudden Dak and Amari Cooper stack just. So we'll see what Dak will do this week. I feel like it's hinging on a big game from him, but that'll be a fun matchup. We got a final matchup too of an international team and a U.S. team, so it'll be really really fun to watch and be in that group chat. All right, we got one more from Zara, a friend of the show. Dynasty question: what is the 1.05 worth in 2022 rookie drafts? This is such a tough
Yeah.
question.
So I'll say this. I think, just being completely candid and honest, I think it's a little too early for
Yeah.
this particular question because right now, because a lot, unless you're like a Devi expert, you're into Devi, most, I guess, FF people, we're gonna be diving in like once, since this is the off season pretty much now. Everyone's going to be diving in like all of January, right? Looking at film, studying. People are going to be doing dynasty mock-ups and things like that. So I believe like mid to late January, we're going to have a better idea of what the 105 is worth. But from my from what I know, and obviously, they'll take it as, testament, but I believe that the QBs, they're going to be QBs, but they're not as valuable as, other drafts. I think it's supposed to be a very wide receiver heavy draft, if I'm not mistaken. Running backs, I think there's some decent running backs, but it's not super deep. But I think wide receiver seems to be like, out of all the positions, it seems to be like the one that I keep hearing about, or I see Devi people talking about. But the 105, I couldn't tell you right now, but anytime there's a top 5 pick, right? I feel like rookie draft picks right now are just the hottest thing on earth, right? Everyone wants rookie draft picks right now. So the 105 is very valuable, a top 5 pick. So I would say that, you can move it for, and also it depends on who your trade partner is, right? Because
Mhm.
I believe right now I would just send out offers, right? And just look at people's needs and even package it. You package the 105 with somebody else, if somebody has a need somewhere. But I think that the answer to your question, I think we're going to know within the next couple of weeks, but I don't know exactly what it's worth at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's a tough question. And you answered that really well, Troy. And it also seems that 2023 picks are being valued like sky high
Yeah.
compared to 2022, which is
Yeah.
still, to me, is a little bit ambitious as well. I mean, we've seen some of these kids coming out for both these classes, and it makes sense. But I don't think 2022 everyone's going to be a stinker or a dud. Like, definitely don't undervalue the 2022 picks either, as we've seen. I've seen that happen in a couple of my dynasty leagues. All right, Troy, while I'm looking up some of these questions from our viewers, you want to let them know about our Football Guys daily email update?
Absolutely. Well, guys, if you aren't all, you need to be signed up if you aren't already. Okay. So every day, Joe Bryant will bring you all the latest from Football Guys: news, transactions, rumors, all the top articles, and all the shows from the Football Guys staff. So stop what you're doing, go to footballguys.com and make sure you sign up today.
Absolutely love that email every single day. Let's get into the questions here. Our last 15 minutes. We'll try to power through them. I'm getting a little sad here, Troy. I'm not going to lie.
Look, it's all good. We got this.
All right, we'll start with Chris Wolf. He says, "Hey guys, I managed to sneak into my fantasy championship thanks to Josh Allen and Miami
Congrats.
defense. Let's go. Our
Hey.
two teams. Now I have to start two of these guys this week. Josh Palmer. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's last name. Troy, do you? I always mess it up. It's a Jacksonville.
Agobawale, Daria
Yes.
Agobawale, yeah.
Jacksonville Jags back up to James Robinson. Okay. Deonta Foreman or Pringle, who actually had a surprisingly great game last week, albeit without Travis Kelce. So he's got to start 2. Who are you going with?
So not Pringle, because now everyone's gonna be active again. So Pringle shouldn't be a thing. So not Pringle. So it leaves 3. I'll say Agubawale, like he is going up against the Patriots, who are a very, very tough defense. So, and
they've been a little bit better, middle of the pack, I think, over this last month. They've not been as scary, but
if it was me, okay. So the Miami Dolphins, so the Tennessee Titans are going against the Miami Dolphins, and Miami Dolphins are susceptible to giving up the run. So I'm going to go with Foreman. And I think I'm probably going to go Josh Palmer. I think Josh Palmer and Foreman.
I like that. Yeah, well, it's worth noting too, Mike Williams, though, could come off of the COVID list now with these new rules.
Oh, you're right. That does affect it. But
he's not been cleared yet, but that would sway my decision to probably Agumbawala and Foreman over the 2 wide receivers. You just got to pay attention to the news. But I do like Palmer if Williams is for some reason out still.
Agreed.
Oh, goodness. What's up, Craig? He says, Buenas noches, mis amigos.
What's up, Craig?
Derek asks us, start Trey Lance or Dak? I don't know what this means. Oh, fairly pricey buy-in. Okay, I got it. I thought it says fairy.
This is a tough one. I'm going to go with I think I'm going to go with Dak.
Yeah.
After that performance, it's hard to sit him.
I'm sticking with Dak too. You got to temper your expectations. He's not going to have 40 points in the first half again, but I think he's got his swagger back. I'm sticking with Dak. He likely got you there. I'm not going to go with Lance on the waiver wire over him. What do we got? Lance season, says Swaggy P. Yeah, we'll see. Because now he's being so hyped. Is this going to be like this entire season show where everyone's like, smash player? This player's a smash. And then,
it's going to be like it. His offseason value is going to, shoot through the moon because, Jimmy G is not going to be there. So it's going to be Trey Lance season. So, yeah, his offseason value is going to be ridiculous.
It'll be fun to watch. All right, Trey S asks us, he made the ship and has a couple of questions. Joe Burrow or Russell Wilson is the first. The next is start 2 out of Pittman, Elijah Mitchell, Jamar Chase. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Chase Edmonds or Aaron Jones. Goodness. All right, let's start with the first, Joe Burrow or Russell Wilson. Who are you going with?
Give me Joe Burrow and then give me Pittman and Edmonds. Is Connor back? So Connor
did not practice today, but
he didn't. So
they're expecting him to be back, but
so give me Pittman and if Connor's some reason out, Chase Edmonds, Elijah Mitchell's back. Oh, this is a tough one.
And if Wentz doesn't play, I don't think.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Pittman.
No, Wentz is out. I forgot.
He has a shot to come back. So this is like, Trey, you got to monitor this all week long.
You're right. But isn't it, unless they change the rules, but I thought because he wasn't vaccinated that he was out, unless something changed. I know they keep changing the rules.
Yeah, so he tested, I feel like it was Monday or Tuesday. So, but they changed it to 5 days, even if you're unvaxxed. And they changed it basically to you are reporting your own symptoms. So if your symptoms have improved, you're allowed to play. So it's very loose. It seems like they're just going to rely on these guys self-reporting.
This is so confusing. But I'll say I'm going to go on the assumption that Wentz is playing. So if Wentz is playing, Pittman.
Yeah.
I think I might still play Chase Edmonds. I think he will get enough targets where I think I'll probably go with those 2.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds has Dallas, right? That's a tough matchup on the ground, but
I mean, I feel like I'm disrespecting Aaron Jones. So I'm sorry y'all think
I
I'm disrespecting
know.
Aaron Jones. It's just like he hasn't, because this is probably going to be the week where it goes off, right? He just hasn't done anything like extremely impressive recently.
Yeah.
And I mean, you want, and then because James Conner's back, I'm probably going to go Pittman and Aaron Jones. But if James Conner's out, I'm going to go Pittman and Chase Edmonds. I think that's what I'm going to do.
I like that answer too. I like if Wentz is playing, I still like Pittman. I like Elijah Mitchell too. I mentioned it earlier in the show. If he's a full go, if he gets a full practice in at least by Friday, I like Elijah Mitchell here as well. All right, let's keep rolling. We've got from Bill. He says, pick 2: Aaron Jones, Montgomery, Javonte, or Gibson. Looks like full PPR. Whew. Oh my goodness. Javonte is tough because these last 2 weeks he's not had a ceiling at all. 12 points, 10 points. If Drew Lock looks like he's gonna play again, I'm just kind of he has a smash matchup against the Chargers though. So
I'm gonna go with Montgomery. Yeah, Javonte gets the Chargers, right? That's what you said.
yes.
I just hate the split time with
I know.
Gordon. But I guess Montgomery, Aaron Jones is in all these questions. And I feel like I'm going to keep not picking him. And I feel bad.
It's tough. I mean, he's going to get you that 10 to 15 point, hopefully a floor like that. But
give me Montgomery, and I don't know if Gibson's still playing. I'll give me Javonte and Montgomery. I feel gross, but I think Javonte and Montgomery. I'll go with them.
it sounds really gross, but I think I agree with you. Got one from Kels. Damian Harris or Daryl Williams, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Oof.
I actually like because Ramondre Stevenson is supposed to be coming back this week. So I think that's going to definitely cut into Harris, but I think he's still going to get goal line work. But I just keep thinking back to when Daryl Williams was the starting running back for the Chiefs.
Yes.
He was targeted like crazy and he kept scoring. He had humongous weeks. He had top 5 weeks. So I think I might.
They're going to need to target him because Cincinnati's pretty tough on the ground. Their rushing defense is pretty good.
I guess because of the Ramondre Stevenson factor, I'm going to go Daryl Williams.
Yeah, I agree. And Harris had a monster week last week, but his ceiling's not usually that high. So I'm with you. Okay, we got a defense question. I love this. Dennis says he has the Bears, or he could pick up Kansas City versus Cincinnati. Kansas City is a better defense, but I dislike the matchup. Could go horribly wrong. I'm with you. I'm sticking with the Bears versus Giants, who have said, Joe Judge has come out and said,
Bears.
You're going to see both Glennon and Jake Fromm. What? He's pulling a Matt Rule. He's trying
That's a disaster waiting to happen. Give me the
Bears. And they should get a little bit healthier, too, with players coming off the COVID list. All right, we got Smitty asks us, James Conner, Kadarius Toney. Oh, I'm sorry. What have you nice folks heard about James Conner, Kadarius Toney, and Elijah Moore? I'm not sure what this question is asking.
Play about like IR, like the injury status or whatever.
Oh, so that makes sense. Yeah. Elijah Moore's done, right?
I think Elijah Moore is done.
Kadarius Toney, I'm not, even if he's playing, I'm not willing to play him. James Conner, he didn't practice today, we mentioned, but I'd be a little bit scared to play James Conner as well, especially they get Dallas. That's a tough matchup, so I don't like any of those options. Another defense, Saints, Bears, or Dolphins for week 17. Holy moly.
So I think so. Obviously, the Dolphins had a humongous week, but a lot of it had to do because of Ian Book, right? He had like 1 million sacks.
Yeah.
I don't, with AJ Brown and Ryan Tannehill, I don't see it. It's almost Ryan Tannehill revenge game, but
yep.
I don't see it going.
I like the Saints. Honestly.
Who do Saints get?
Carolina, and Sam Darnold was declared the starter. So, and the Saints have been.
But we just talked about the Jake Fromm, Mike Glennon.
Oh,
so I kind of like the Bears. I'm kind of going with the Bears.
I only say Saints because that's been their strong point. I don't think they've had less than 9 points in the last couple of weeks, and they're still even though the defense is just consistently on the field because their offense can't really do anything. That's the only reason I go there. Albert asks us, Amari Cooper or Brandon Cooks half PPR. Oof, I think I'm sticking with Cooper here because of the matchup. Arizona's bleeding points to wide receivers. Their secondary is pretty bad.
But I feel like Brandon Cooks the bona fide number one.
I know. It's tough.
I'm taking Cooks. I'll take Cooks.
All right. I like it. Spicy. It gets the Chargers. I'm going to fire through these last couple. Pick 3, Waddle, Renfro, Cooper, Metcalf, Cooks, and Gage. Definitely Waddle, obviously. I'm going Renfro, and then I'm going...
I think just the way it's ordered. Waddle, Renfro, Cooper.
Agree. All right, Brian.
Even though I kind of contradicted myself, I saw Cooks.
That's true. You do.
So
that's tough.
I think So now I'm second guessing, but Waddle, Renfro, it's a toss up for me between Cooper and Cooks. I would go Cooks, but I don't hate you if you go Cooper.
All right, we got Swift or Jacobs, half PPR. Oh gosh.
I think I'd go Jacobs just because he's been healthy and he's been performing and he's not coming off an injury.
Greg asks Huntley, Lance, or Taysom Hill. Well, it sounds like Lamar's gonna play.
Yeah. I think I might prefer Taysom.
He gets Carolina. It's not a cake matchup, but it's pretty good.
They just got dominated by the Bucks. So
I think I'm chancing with Lance.
You know what? Maybe I'll go Lance. It's close between Hill and Lance, but it's the Lance party. I'll go Lance.
That's what I'm saying. All right, let's fire through. 3 of these wide receivers: Diggs, Chase, Antonio Brown, AJ Brown. Are you kidding me? You have to sit one?
You're too lucky. Any of them. I'm just playing.
I know.
This is like one of the hardest questions I've ever seen in my life. But
Same.
I guess
definitely Diggs. He gets
no matter what, you'll be fine. I'll just preface that, Paul. You're gonna be okay. But I'm playing Diggs. I guess I'm sitting.
Ooh, wait. Chase has a tougher matchup this week against KC. I hate that, but I might sit. I'm sitting Chase or Antonio Brown.
You're killing me, Paul. Okay. I'm gonna go AJ Brown. I'm gonna play AJ Brown, Diggs, and I'll sit Chase.
Ooh, okay, I love it. All right, RB2 for Paul. He asked Aaron Jones, Pollard, Foreman, or Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard did not practice today, which is interesting.
Oh goodness.
I'm gonna stick with these options.
I'm gonna do Aaron Jones in this one. Give me Aaron Jones.
Finally got one where we answered Aaron. Steven asked Brady or Kyler Murray, Dallas D or San Fran D. I'm sticking with Dallas defense, and Brady gets the Jets.
Brady.
Gotta play. And Murray gets Dallas. Yeah, I'm not. This way you don't have to.
San Fran and Brady.
Oh, San Fran. Okay.
I think we only got time for maybe one more question.
Mike Williams, MVS, or Devontae Parker?
After that bagel by Parker, that was awful. Give me Mike Will.
I'm going Mike as well for if he's back. Goodness gracious. Well, thank you guys for watching our last episode for the season. Usually we're live every Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern. Make sure you subscribe to the Football Guys YouTube page, youtube.com/footballguys. You can find the rest of our shows there, the Audible Dynasty Show with Chad and Jordan, the Dynasty Newsletter, the Power Grid, all of our shorts. We will miss you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out with us this season. We'll check you later.